Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. I'm Beth Vanderveer, and I am the host for today's Patton College of Education Munch and Learn Remote Teaching Series, engaging students with technology. Throughout the presentation, I'll be monitoring the chat. We ask you to please mute your microphone and to turn off your cameras. Please use the chat room for questions throughout, and at the end, there will be time for questions and answers. Today, Robin Ambrozy, Assistant Professor of Instruction and Program Coordinator for our Customer Service Leadership Program in the Department of Human and Consumer Sciences in the Patton College of Education, will be presenting a session entitled Providing Value in a Quarantined Internship. It's my pleasure to have Robin come forward and to begin. Robin?
All right, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for coming out. I know it's a busy time of the year for all of us as we get those final grades in and our students are finishing up. And it's a pleasure just to talk today a little bit about internships and the technology that engages students during this time when we are remote. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started today. And as I go through my presentation, one of the things you need to know is I do talk incredibly fast. If, because we're having some issues that can start to jumble, just reach out in the chat, slow me down a little bit, and I'm happy to do that so that we can hopefully glean a little bit of knowledge today about kind of some of my experiences. I loved when Dr. Yan did her presentation earlier, and she said, this worked for me. And I'm going to share it exactly the same, that this is what works for me. So we had to come into one thing that's really great about technology and higher ed is we've had online for a long time, a lot more so than our industries that we support. You know, we've sort of been at this and we've had a chance to get used to it. And many of us, if you're anything like me, said, I'll learn that later. I'll learn that later. And later came about March 9th for all of us. And so when that happened, we had to rethink and we rethought technology, higher education, the whole shebang. And so today, as we get started, I'm just going to talk a little bit. I'm not going to talk all about internships, but I am going to talk about how that pivots, and then also how we can use technology and how we can support our students who are looking for those opportunities and the businesses and industries that our students work in, and how we can kind of get them on the same page to help facilitate that for students. So, whoops. All right, the game changes. So I love this because I kept saying the game changes, but what it really says is the games change. And when I say that, I mean, when we think about it, internships changed, higher education changed, and our industries that we serve changed. All of it happened in a glance. And so all of a sudden, we had to be adaptable. Something that in higher ed we know is kind of a slow process, and it was not slow. We had a week to put it together, and we did it. We did improvise. We turned a full semester internship into a micro internship and added some things. We moved, and some programs offered classes, and we had to be adaptable, and we had to work with our industries, and we had to accelerate decision making immediately and be solution driven. So the pilot's over. You know, we are at the end of spring semester. What's working? Have industries' needs changed? Well, if you work in education, you know, yes, they have. We're still educating students. That didn't change. But the way we did it changed. And those educators need the skills of technology for our students. What are the industry best practices? Have you talked to your industry leaders and asked them for internships and what did it? And technology and security. 2 months ago, I've used Zoom for 4 years. Loved it, worked well. I love the screen share function. It was perfect for me. And now I find out security is not so good. So I'm changing. So technology changes, and as we learn more and we grow, we have a paid version versus a free version. I'm going free. So how do I do that? What's available, what the cost is, and how does it work with collaboration? You know, I love Zoom. I love seeing my 34 family members or my 50 family members for my son's graduation. But when I come over there, I don't need to share files with them. So that's not critical. It's great for interaction, but when I have this other option, I need to look at it. And then which one is most productive for me? So when we look at the pilot, and I'm talking about our spring pilot, whether we wanted it to or not, what does it look like for students? What were their needs and what were our industry needs? So as we ask these questions, and I just put some down, I think our students are fearful. And I don't mean fearful of Corona. I mean fearful that they can't complete education, that they don't have the skills that our employers need, or that because the industry that they prepared for looks different than they expected, they're not ready. When in reality, we've been teaching technology all the way through in our classes. And in the online version, we've been teaching them well. So how can we take that transferable knowledge and put it in the industry? In industry, they don't know what they don't know. They don't know they need students. Some of them know it, but how can students work differently and remotely? I laugh. My husband has 5 interns that work for him, and they are chemical engineers. And so they are now remote options in the engineering, and he's working through a lot of the same things. So regardless of the industry, we're all working through the nuances that are needed for this. So we have to be ready. We have to reassess as an industry the needs that we have. And we have to continue the mission. So one of the things that I was fortunate enough to do in this process is I have a particular form that every contact fills out when they do an internship. So when you start the internship, I created a form that works, and the student goes in and enters all the data. At the top of a button, I could quickly and easily go in and share and send an email out to everybody who's ever done an internship and said, what does this look like for you? How is this? What can we do? What do you need from our students? How will we grow them? And was able to gather some feedback right away. I could have used Zoom and called a focus group together and actually did that with the students. But we have lots of forms and surveys. So I put a few in here about how you could grab some feedback from folks before you move on. And then the interesting part was connecting Zoom or Teams. And what should I use? I had always been a fan of Zoom. I've used it for virtual office hours since I started at Ohio University 4 years ago. It's been effective. I've been able to do mock interviews for my students every semester. And I'm not talking about a few, I'm talking about 40 in a semester, 2-week time frame, using Zoom, sharing out resumes with them that they created and going over it live so they can see what I see. And I found those features to be excellent. I came into Teams as the preferred option once this kind of all happened, and it's taken me a while to get used to it. I do have a couple new notes. One of my contacts who was helping me train for August when we were going to go to Teams is Tracy Kitts here at Ohio University. And Tracy shared a couple new nuances that are coming to Teams in the next couple weeks. One, where you can only see 4 people now, you'll be able to see 9 people. So that's terrific. And the security is good. There's also an open remote room that you can come into before you come into the meeting. A little bit more limitations on who can record and share, and being a little more careful about the share outs. So he wanted me to share that with you. And there is a lobby option, and let's see, I think that's about it. So as you can see, I've put down a few of the different ways you can use Zoom or Teams to connect. I think many of us are already familiar with this, but I did want to share some of the nuances that are coming forth. Okay, so how have I connected with students in the internship program? Well, a lot of those will work directly in our Zoom meeting or our Teams meeting. And so one of the ways I'm going to share right now is I'm going to share with a video that I created real quick when it is your meeting. So I'm going to just slow down for a second. When you create a meeting, you have the option to use polls. So a poll in the chat where we just ask a quick question, everybody answers it, and we see everybody's answers live. It's a quick, easy feature, and it comes together in a snap. However, for this particular meeting, I was not the organizer and therefore could not use that feature. But I created a quick video for you, and I will share that with you now. So just give it a minute as we share this. I'm going to do that one more time because I realized I didn't share sound. And if you don't share sound, you're in trouble. I got it that time. Hold on just a second. All right, can everybody see my screen? I thought I'd take you through a quick test run and show you how to use forms in Teams. So I'm connecting to a meeting right now. And once I get to that meeting, I want to pull up my chat function. So as you can see, I'm in a meeting and here's my chat. So you can see that I've already put a form in there, but I wanted to teach all of you how to do that. So one of the ways to do it is to click these 3 buttons right here. And when I click them, some options come up for an app. One of the apps I'm going to use today is Forms. So I'm going to click Forms, and this comes up. And on the forms, I'm going to click a question. And so my today's question was, have you ever used a poll in Teams? Okay. And then I'm just going to add the responses. I don't need a maybe. And I'm going to hit next. And then I'm going to hit send. And when I hit that, it will send it over to the meeting chat, and people can live respond, and we can get some feedback. And when I respond yes and hit that and yes and hit that, then you can see that as people respond, we'll know if they've used this. And so this can be a great tool when you're working with students and you're trying to figure out if they're gathering the knowledge that you need them to have. So just a quick one. Okay. Presentation. Yes. 2 seconds. Okay. So I was still getting the sound on my end. Can you hear me okay?
We hear you fine, Robin.
Okay, I'm going to reshare my presentation. Maybe it's going to let me. Okay, so while I can't create the form here, I will ask you, have you all used that before? So hopefully, if you haven't, you now know how to create one using forms. This is also very positive in terms of just using it for the forms. You can also use Bing as an app to download. And if you download Bing, you can use the pictures. So for example, if I'm teaching something in a food and culture class, I could show a picture of a particular fruit that maybe students don't know what it looks like and load it quickly into my chat so we could converse about that. So that might just be an option. All right. So what have I done in my internship classes that have worked, and how could they work here? One of the things that I've used is I call a live journal. And I've got to give credit where credit's due. Dr. Jessie Stricker kind of taught me about this one. And the live journal is basically a OneDrive option where everybody has shared editing privileges. And each week I have a title in there and a question, and everybody goes in and answers it and replies to each other. And so that live journal, I could easily move into Teams under the add forms. So later when this meeting's over, I'll kind of show you what that looks like, and we'll add that to it. So that's one of the ways I've done a live journal, and students can connect with one another. So as we build engagement, we're trying to connect them with each other and with us. So the group meetings and interviews, I think we've all used that. But one of the technology pieces that has helped me a lot is a form called Calendly. And so I'm going to share that out with you right now, just what that looks like. And give me just a second. You won't need sound on this one, but whoops. And what you're seeing right here is Screencast-O-Matic. And we'll talk about that in a second. But if you are scheduling a lot of events with students, a lot of meetings with them individually, or even with employers, and you don't want to sit and spend time saying I'm available here, or double over students, this is a fantastic tool, because what this allows you to do is you set up what you're doing, what your time limit is, and what days of the week you want students to be able to meet with you. Can you all see my screen okay? Do you see a calendar on there?
Yes, Robin. Very good.
So at this point, students have a 35-minute window, and they can come in and pick times to meet with me. If they pick, it comes up, they enter their details. They have to agree that they've already submitted the paperwork needed before this meeting comes. And they have to give it the assignment 24 hours, and then they can schedule it. It immediately comes onto my calendar. So while I use this through Google for security purposes, I don't load it directly to Outlook because I have to give some privilege. But I have my Google Calendar come into my Outlook to keep that a little bit safer. So that's an option for students as you're creating a lot of those meetings for that genuine one-on-one connection. Another one that I'll show you right here is just Screencast-O-Matic. A few minutes ago, I showed you a video of how to create a form. And what really happened is when we went to practice this, I couldn't load the form because I was not the organizer. And so the quick workaround for me, and I did this in about 2 minutes, was create that form video like that. So in about 1.5 minutes, I launched the recorder. It shows my screen, and I make a video. I hit stop when I'm done, and then I loaded it to YouTube. It was that easy. So that's a great source for connection. Oftentimes we have different types of learners with our students, whether they need to see it visually, I work with a lot of adult students who, when we talk about technology, their anxiety level raises. And that's not just adult students, that's a lot of different students. And even my friends and my colleagues. Sometimes technology is scary, but when I can show them how to do it, they can put that video in, watch it as we go along, then they are more able to do it in their own time frame and get used to it. They can also come back and ask questions. I'm going to take you back to my meeting and share something else. So before I share, I want to say that on your screen on the left-hand side, you will see options. So I'm going to pull up my screen and go back to my meeting. Sorry, guys. Just give it a second. Okay, over here, these three little buttons. These three little buttons are your power. They'll give you access to all the different apps that are available to help you. Apps that I've used are Bing, I've used Forms, and I use YouTube. So once you load these apps, and you'll pick them and then you'll load them, then when you go over to your chat, over here, and we're going to write in the chat, and I'm going to move this up, but I'm going to write in the chat, these three will give me my options as well. And you can see they come up. There's also a YouTube one that comes up. And if you don't know the name of the video, you can type what you think it is, and it'll bring all of those up, and you can click it and share out right there on the spot. So that gives you options to just use it and to be connecting if students are having an issue. So I could easily move that over and share that quickly. I'm stopping the share and going back to my presentation. I guess I never checked to see how to start my presentation at where I left off, and it just keeps starting it at the beginning. So I'm going to have to learn how to do that when you go in and out. So forgive me as I move forward a little bit. I want to make sure that I use your time well. And as you, I see a question. Dean Middleton asks, do we advance your PowerPoint, or how does that happen? Good question. I'm advancing it as I go along, but I think in the best case scenario, maybe a facilitator does that, so it's ready to go at each point. So
Robin, there's also another question. Can we also upload screencast Maytech videos onto Teams, or if we can just share the screen?
So can we use screencast videos directly onto Teams? The answer is yes. So while I made my videos, I send them directly to YouTube because that's an easy way for me to keep them online and out of my files. You can also, I also have a screencast subscription. And I want to tell you that it's about $49 a month, and that allows you to put them online. And you can just put them online for them, and they're saved as MOVs. And anytime you have an MOV, you can move that directly into your files for a Teams. So if you just went and collected that movie or MP3 or MP4, you can move that directly in Teams by using the attach button down at the bottom, and then just putting that in, or going directly to the section that says files, shared files, and loading it there. So those are two ways to do that. Did I answer the question?
Then there's also a question along the same lines of using the screencast then for video lectures with the PowerPoint.
Okay, so if you're doing a PowerPoint presentation, you don't need to use screencast. Can you do it? I have done it many times. It works well. But you are using, if you choose to use Teams, it has a recording feature. So you could be recording your presentation live with student audiences and engaging that, and then save that in your file when you're done. And then students who couldn't make it for the live lecture could watch and also see some of the different questions from students live as well. So my suggestion would be, if you're using Teams, to use the record feature and then save that for anybody in your class to see later.
And in fact, we are recording this presentation. We're recording all of the presentation for the series. Thank you, Robin.
You're welcome. So hopefully that'll work. And then when we talk about live text transcripts, so this particular feature is fantastic. It's pretty new. And if you are, I'm going to turn on live capture. So I don't know how long this will take to show up, but I want to show you this really great transcript that should show up if it can understand me. Okay. Are you seeing it yet?
Not yet.
Captions are hidden. Hold on for just a second. Let me. Okay, so one of the options that I will tell you is when you are presenting, and I'm going to go back and kind of show you what this looks like. So I'm going to lose my presentation again, aren't I? All right, that's all right, because this is important, and I want you to see this feature. It's specifically to help create that transcript. So I'm going to share my screen again. And these three buttons right here. Can you all see the three buttons?
Yes.
All right, turn on live caption. That will allow those students who may have an issue hearing you to see the caption of you talking. And so it's capturing that live as I'm working through it. And a feature that is very helpful. Of course, it's not going to always get it right. It works better when you have a mic on, which I don't today. But I have used this feature and it does work. Okay, so that's an option for you as well. Oh, it's going to show up now. Do you see it on my screen? Because I'm still showing my screen and it should be at the bottom.
It is there, Robin.
We see it.
All right, so that's just an example of some of the ways when you create a YouTube video, you also have a transcript option in that as well. And so those are just some good sources to help you. And luckily, my presentation isn't that long, so we don't have to go through page after page. But I, again, appreciate you guys being with me. This is interesting because I have never had this issue where I've gone out and gone in. So using notes, one of the other features that is new for Teams, and at the top of your meeting, you might see forms and then notes. You can create notes right live while somebody's talking. So if you want to go in and look at that, it would be at the top of the screen and it's notes, and you can start creating notes and even break them up. So one of the things on my notes, and I'll share a picture of my notes when we're done, because in my notes, I have all the technologies we've used, important dates, including the next session that's coming up in 2 weeks. So I want to give a little shout out for that. I think Jesse's going to join us and do a session on technology as well. And that will be fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. And then I also just have the notes that I need as I'm growing and how to use them. So those are some good features. Scheduling weekly meetings, peer reviews using Screencast-O-Matic. So that same tool that I used to create my video, I have also allowed students and taught students how to use that feature to do peer evaluations of products. Sometimes it can lose something when you say, well, this is wrong or this needs changed. But when you're doing it live and you're using your screen and you're pointing to it and talking through it, students have a better grasp of how that doesn't look right or doesn't seem right. So that's a really powerful tool that our students could use even out when they're working with students or in their internship opportunities. Another feature that I'll continue to talk about is email through Teams. And in Teams, you have the option in a group to do a full group message. You can also create a channel. And if you've ever used Slack or Trello, you know that they have channels in those program managers. And so one of the things that I've done in every group of interns that I've had on campus or virtually is I teach them a project management tool. So for those of my students who took it when we first started, they used Slack, but they understand channels, and all that knowledge is transferable into Teams when it comes time to use Teams. You learn how to create forms, move them in. It's very similar, just a different technology. So I highly encourage you to find technologies that your industry uses. So if I was in teaching, we know Google Classroom is huge, right? So I would have my students using that. For industry, a lot of times I'll let my students learn OneDrive well. So they have to learn how to share files and create files to edit and collaborate on files and use your OneDrive and your SharePoint and then move those into email. So just working them through that whole thing so they have a better understanding when they go out in industry. So it's really about what your industry needs and how that changes. One of the tools and forms that I'll be sharing with you when this is over is just some ideas that we've used in the College of Education and in Department of Human and Consumer Sciences to meet the needs of those students. One of the great factors is using technology, using LinkedIn. I think Dr. Ann Pollins kind of connected with some mentors for some of our students, and we're bringing together a group of mentors to help our students in the fashion industry. In addition, I use mentors with my students from their businesses. And so mentorship is an important part of it. And we've used service learning, and Lisa Diebel is using service learning. She's got students out next semester working for a nonprofit, helping them with some technology needs that they have. So finding the needs of our industries and then using technology to meet those is a very powerful source that we can provide both industry and our students. So emails, when you are in Teams, you can send an email, keep track of your emails, all using the features that are already in Teams. You can share files easily, and that means moving them over. You can share a white screen where you can either start with just a blank form and write on it, or you can even bring in just a picture of something, for example, a picture of a heart, and talk through those, and everybody can write on it or you can write on it. So making sure that you're using technology for getting the most out of it is really critical. And I think sometimes we just use what we know. So asking the questions is a powerful piece. Okay, and so one of the things that I said as I finish up is just assessment with a continuous improvement plan. So I see a lot of names over in that chat box of people that we are doing this every day. I mean, we've been doing online education maybe for quite some time, but you don't know if you're engaging students unless you ask them. And one of the things that I would say that's been pretty tough is those evaluation forms that we have coming into the college don't always ask that engagement question. What are we doing well? What do we need to do? What's working? What do you like? And so I pulled some feedback from last semester for one of my classes. And the question that I ask every class, and again, I'm going to give a shout out. I use forms. I could use Qualtrics. And when I leave here today, before I leave, I'm going to put a Qualtrics form in here for you guys to do an evaluation of this presentation so we can hone it and make it better. But I'll use those forms. I send them out to students a lot. they don't have to get points for it. They fill them out because they get immediate feedback. So once these forms are filled out, I do it midterm. I ask them what's working, what's not, what do they want to change, what do they love, and then I ask them after the semester's over. So this is some feedback that you can read what students say. And one of the features they love, because I do most of my classes in Blackboard, except for I use OneDrive or Slack or a project management tool, Trello, to run my internship class, because I'm trying to ingrain that technology use. Next round will be used in Teams. So I'll test drive it. I haven't done that yet. But students love the blogs. And when I talk about students and engagement, blogs or journals, a chance for students to talk about their own personal experiences and share that with other students. I don't require students to come back and respond. Why? Because I don't like to grade or give points for somebody saying, that's right. Yeah, that's right. But here's what I found out. Students who do the blogs or the journals, they read each other's and they support without my requirement. So when somebody shares their heart, typically somebody will go behind and give them a little thumbs up or put something encouraging on there. And this has been really powerful and helpful to students, especially during this time where I have a class of all seniors who just lost their graduation day, who all had to move home, and many who were sad. And I watched their level of engagement with one another as they blogged and shared their hearts. Those blogs that I put on are worth 2 points a week. That's it, 2 points. But it's powerful and it works for the students. So I just share that because sometimes we think it has to be all this, when in reality, on my discussion boards, one of the things that I don't do is every class looks different and every week looks different. If a student has a discussion board one week, the next week they'll have a voice thread. So I never put 15 voice threads in, and I never put 15 discussion boards. I'm going to mix it up. And with that mix comes one, I call it, what would you do? And that's a real life scenarios that have actually happened in my life or the life of my friends in my industry, and students answer that. So just keeping it, engaging them with different options, I think is very powerful. Okay, so when we go back to what we were going to get out of this presentation, there's one piece that I haven't really talked about. I haven't really given you an opportunity to do some brainstorming. So if there are questions that you have and you want to answer, I left about 20 minutes for this, because what I've found is there is so much knowledge in our College of Education and within the college itself. So if there is something that you want to share that you've done or that you've used, this is your time. You can share it either in the chat or you can come on and unmute yourself and share it there. So anybody have anything that they would like to share or want me to go over on how to do?
Robin, okay. This is Renee. Can you give an example of how you used the voice thread or some of those, and actually how you've used it at the in the internship experience, either through supervision or other means? Some of them I can see how I can use it, but can you help connect some of the dots?
Absolutely. So internships, the voice thread, and I'm going to open up a voice thread right now live for you so we can kind of talk through some of the options that you have as an instructor. One of the things that I will tell you about voice thread as we go into it, and I'm going to include audio, even though I'm not planning to share an audio, but let me just go to a voice thread. One of the things that if you're going to use voice thread, start with Blackboard. Because if you start with Blackboard, the link will be automatic when you use that function through Blackboard, and the students will go directly into your class. And you can see from my screen all the different classes that a student would go into. So at the very beginning of an internship, when a student creates these are awesome presentations that my students did, but when my students would do a welcome, they have a link. So if I click right here in the share button, students can share out this link, and that link can go to anybody. And that you could share that with an employer each week of what you're learning and how to have just that presentation. So if the student shared this, copied this link and shared it, that employer could watch this particular session and kind of get an idea of who that student is. And it puts a face to a name. At a time when we're all working virtually, this is really powerful for me as the instructor to see these students. I work a lot online, so when I'm walking through the hall and I see Marilyn, and she's a student here at Athens, and I say, hey, Marilyn, aren't you in my online class? And she says, yeah, how'd you know? And I'm like, I saw you on VoiceThread. So it helps develop that deeper connection. You know what somebody looks like. And I think that can be powerful. So that would be one. Another would be sharing outcomes. So when you're creating a VoiceThread, you can also create it to do a PowerPoint presentation. So a lot of times in a presentation method, and at the end of an internship, a student will do a presentation to the industry leaders. And so you can create a PowerPoint and then do a voiceover using VoiceThread through that and share that whole link out with anybody who wants to watch it. So that would be two powerful ways. Does that help you connect the dots a little?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. So these are great little ways. And once you're using VoiceThread and you use it in a different one, I have different channels within my class where a student would go in and do a final presentation or a session on what you would fear, biases, diversity. So all of my different classes, I use it differently every semester. The one thing they all have in common is they all have a welcome. And over and over and over, I hear students say, that's really powerful, because then in the discussion board, when somebody replies, they'll go back and say, oh, I know who that is. That's the person from Cleveland who blah, 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 or whatever they're sharing. So that's just a little side share. Okay, anything else? Any other questions that you have for me today? Beth, how's it look on our chat?
Chat looks fine. Let's give it 7 seconds to see if there are any more questions. 1 minute.
Okay. Well, again, I want to just tell you all that I appreciate you coming out today. I hope you learned a few little tips. And when this class is over, you will see me share some forms. As a matter of fact, I think that I can share it right now. I'll give me 2 seconds, because I'm going to go in and I want to share a Qualtrics format. So in Teams, I've got a new message. And so you'll see at the end of this, there's a Qualtrics feedback. That's for me. One thing you know about customer service is we always do assessments. We're always assessing, because you want to exceed the customer's need, and you can't do that if you don't know what the customers want. So this is just a chance for you to give me some feedback, and hopefully the next time we have this opportunity, we can share more technology that we can use and go from there. In addition, a couple things. You'll see notes come through from me. Those notes will have all the different technology that I've used. If you need to reach out to me personally, my email will be on there. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to load that in as we speak so that you can reach out. If there's something that I can help you with, I'm happy to do so. Thanks, everyone.
Robin, the participants are saying, nice job, very informative, awesome presentation. You rocked this. Thanks, Robin. And so it has been very valuable and informative for us. I want to remind everyone that on Monday, May 18th, we have our next Munch and Learn remote teaching series, engaging students with technology. And we look forward to seeing you. Robin, thank you very much.